White roses, soft violin music, the sound of champagne flutes clinking like wind chimes. That's what hit me first when I walked into the reception hall. It smelled like money, or at least the kind of money that comes with polished marble floors and signature cocktails. Everyone was dressed to impress. I stepped in, adjusting my simple heels, the strap already digging into my ankle. The hostess barely glanced at my invitation. She smiled tight and pointed me toward a table in the back. "Right over there, Mum." There, by the restroom. The door kept swinging open, bleach, ammonia, some perfume mixed in. The scent slapped me every few seconds. I took my seat alone, setting my small, worn handbag on my lap. From where I sat, I could see the dance floor and the head table. Everyone else, my family included, was up there, laughing, arms draped over each other's shoulders, sipping wine like they had no past to hide. No one looked my way, not even once. It was like being 16 again, hiding in the kitchen during family reunions because someone had to wash dishes, or being told to take the group photo while everyone else posed. I wasn't angry. That's the funny part. I wasn't even sad, just tired. You get used to being invisible, used to telling yourself they're just busy or don't know any better. But you know, deep down, you always know. I stared at my glass of water, untouched. No lemon slice, no garnish, just plain, like me. The bride walked past, my niece glowing in lace and privilege. I stood up, smiled, told her congratulations. She hugged me with one arm, like she didn't want to smudge her makeup on my dress. I didn't blame her. The dress was off the rack, clearance rack to be exact. I bought it because it was navy, and navy hides sweat and regret. "I'm so happy for you," I said. She didn't ask me to join any photos. I didn't offer. A waiter passed with gifts stacked on a tray. I almost stood to help but caught myself. No one had asked. I sat back down. That's when Hollis walked past, my former mother-in-law. She looked at me like she'd just seen a stain on white carpet. "You look brave wearing that," she said. I smiled. "I came here with peace." Her laugh was soft, almost a scoff. I exhaled, picked up my fork. The chicken was dry, but at least it was warm. I tried to focus on chewing, tried to tune out the whispering, the clinking, the way laughter always seemed to stop right as I walked by. Then came dessert. A tray of tiny cakes and mousse cups was making its way down the table. When it reached me, I reached for a fork, then heard her voice. "Excuse me," Hollis called to the waiter, loud enough for the whole table to hear. "She hasn't paid yet." I froze. The waiter blinked. "Excuse me, Mum." "She's with me," Hollis said. "She'll cover her share." All eyes turned. I reached for my wallet, heart pounding. My fingers felt numb. I pulled out my only debit card, handed it over, declined. I swallowed hard, tried again, declined. A pause, a silence so loud it rang. Hollis leaned in, figures always relying on handouts. Then, before I could move, her hand was in my hair. She grabbed a fistful and gave it a tug, hard enough to jolt me. Not enough to leave a mark, but enough for the room to gasp. Then came the slap. Soft, sharp, right across my cheek. It wasn't the pain that stunned me, it was how no one moved. The violin music kept playing, a sweet, romantic waltz. Like the moment wasn't real, but it was. I sat there, blinking. I didn't speak, didn't flinch. My hands were steady, my eyes full, but not spilling. Not for her, not for this. In my head, my father's voice whispered from another time. The more silent they are, the more dangerous they become. I stood, adjusted the strap of my purse. No one stopped me. I walked through the tables, past faces I used to love, past relatives who once cradled me as a baby, who now couldn't meet my eyes. I reached the doors, pushed them open. The night was cooler than I expected. I walked to my car, the gravel crunching beneath my shoes. I unlocked the door, sat down, and just breathed. This won't end here. My hands were still trembling when the phone buzzed. A name lit up the screen, my sister, the one who never called. I sat in the driver's seat for what felt like hours, though maybe it had only been 10 minutes. The slap on my cheek still pulsed, sharp, ugly, humiliating. I hadn't even wiped it. Just let it sit there like a badge of something I hadn't agreed to wear. Then my phone lit up. At first, I thought I was seeing things. Juna. That name hadn't shown up on my screen in over 5 years. I stared at it, thumb hovering above the green button. She'd vanished after the reading of Mum's will. We hadn't exchanged a birthday card, a voicemail, not even a passive-aggressive comment on social media. And now she was calling, I answered quietly. Hello? There was a long pause. I thought maybe it was a mistake, or a pocket dial. Then her voice came through, steady, familiar in a way that made my ribs tighten. I was at the wedding, she said. I blinked. My eyes scanned the back of the venue, the spot near the catering tent. I hadn't seen her. You were where? I asked. In the back. I didn't plan to come. Lani invited me last minute. I didn't even RSVP. A silence ballooned between us. Then she added, I saw what Hollis did. My hand clenched the steering wheel. A lot of people saw. No one said anything. I couldn't stay. I left right after, she said. Her voice wasn't soft, but it wasn't hard either. Something in between, like she was testing the weight of what to say next. That checks out, I said. You were always good at leaving. Another pause. You think I don't carry it? I think you took what you needed and didn't look back. And there it was again, that old wound. The last time we spoke, I'd called her selfish. She'd called me weak. We yelled about Mum's will like two strangers arguing over a parking spot. She got the house, I got silence. I deserved some of it, she'd said back then. You weren't around, Marlies. You never stepped up. And maybe I didn't. Maybe I stayed away too long, too often. But grief doesn't come with a calendar, and forgiveness doesn't come with inheritance. I shouldn't have come today, Juna said now. But when they sat you by the toilet, I swear I almost got up. Almost, I whispered. You almost did. Look, she said, tone shifting. I've got something, a letter from Mum. Never opened it. I didn't even know I still had it until last week. That pulled my eyes up. What kind of letter? I don't know, but it's addressed to both of us. I pressed my fingers against my forehead. Why now? Because I think we've been fed the same lies, just from different plates. That line sat heavy. I didn't know if it was truth or bait. Juna offered to meet Saturday. Said she'd drive into town. We could talk, go over the letter, maybe clear the air, maybe not. I'm not promising anything, I told her. I wouldn't believe you if you did, she replied. But you should read this. Whatever it is, it's from her. I pulled onto the road. The city lights smeared across my windshield as I passed downtown. The skyline blurred with memory. Fights in parking lots, secrets over Sunday dinners, and birthdays with empty chairs. I thought of when I was 10 and Juna had hidden cookies in her drawer for me after Mum screamed about a broken lamp. Back then, she was my protector. Somewhere along the way, that fell apart. Sometimes bridges don't burn, they just never get built. When I reached my apartment complex, I pulled into my spot and shut off the engine. The quiet was jarring. I typed one text, Saturday works, and hit send. As I climbed the stairs to my unit, the porch light flickered. I noticed something at the door, a small package. No name, no return address, just a white envelope, inside with a note taped to it. You don't know half of it yet. Saturday morning came early. I didn't sleep much the night before. The note, the envelope, the past, all of it sat in my chest like a cinder block. I poured myself a cup of black coffee and sat at the kitchen table, the envelope lying in front of me like a dare. I stared at it for a long time. You know that kind of staring where your mind runs off in every direction, but your eyes stay locked? That was me, wondering if opening it would make things worse or better or nothing at all. Eventually, I broke the seal. Inside was a letter in my mother's handwriting. The loops in her cursive looked softer than I remembered. It was dated 2 months before she died. My hand trembled as I unfolded it. "If you're reading this," it began, "then I never had the courage to say it out loud." I read it again, then again. That one sentence took the wind out of me, and the rest? I wasn't ready. She wrote about how she'd failed me, how she knew she favored others, said she saw too much of her younger self in me, soft, too patient, too kind, and it scared her, because softness in her world was danger. "You reminded me of who I could have been," she wrote, "and I punished you for it." My stomach turned. She wrote about letting people treat me badly because it was easier than standing up for me. Said silence kept peace in the room even if it tore apart her child. "I thought I was protecting you by making you stronger. I see now I was just trying to survive my own shame." I pressed my hand to my mouth. The kindest words I ever got from her came after she was already gone. Then came the part I never expected. She mentioned a second will. She wrote that she'd drafted a new one after the holidays, meant to give me a small piece of land outside Denton, her father's old lot. "Something that's just yours," she said, but it was never notarized. She never told anyone. It wasn't legal. "Maybe it's too late," she wrote, "but I wanted you to know I tried." Tried. That word rang in my head like a cruel joke. I stared out the window, watching a neighbor walk her dog. My life had been built on believing I was always last in line, that I deserved scraps. And here was proof. Maybe I hadn't been the problem. Maybe I was just the easy one to forget. And what did it change now? I sat on the floor with the letter in my lap. I whispered, "I'm angry at a dead woman. Is that allowed?" I grabbed my coat and walked to the park nearby. My feet hit the pavement hard. Like each step could stomp out the weight building behind my eyes. The trees were thinning with fall, just like the excuses I'd always made for her. I remembered when I was 9, I broke a plate covering for a cousin. She didn't say a word, didn't ask, didn't defend me, just let me take the blame and sent me to bed hungry. And I still loved her. I thought about burning the letter. That would have been easier. But something in me refused. Back home, I called Juna. "She wrote me one too," she said after a pause. I waited. "But mine wasn't so kind," she added. We didn't say anything else for a while. We didn't need to. Even in her apologies, Mum had played favourites. That night, I was brushing my teeth when I heard it. A banging on my front door, 3 hard knocks. Then a voice, one I hadn't heard in years. "We need to talk, now." It was Malcolm. It was one of those cloudy afternoons that never makes up its mind. The kind where the sky just hangs low and thick, threatening but not yet breaking. I got to the cafe early. Small, local place tucked into a corner of old downtown. Nothing fancy. Just quiet enough for a conversation that didn't want to be heard. I took a seat by the window, stirring my coffee more than sipping it, watching the street. The clouds were growing darker by the minute. My watch said 2:16. She was late. Of course she was. When Juna finally walked in, she looked smaller. Not the sister I remembered, all sure-footed and sharp-tongued. She avoided my eyes, kept her voice low. "Sorry," she said, like it meant anything now. The barista brought over 2 slices of cake, same ones from the wedding. Juna flinched when she saw them. I didn't say a word. She reached into her bag and slid something across the table, a little USB drive. "This was supposed to play after the toasts," she said. I stared at it, then at her. She looked out the window like she wanted to disappear. I plugged it into my laptop. It took a minute to load. Then the screen lit up with familiar scenes. Too familiar. Footage from the wedding, but not the pretty angles. These were clipped, raw moments. Hollis whispering to someone, then pointing my way. Me standing by the restroom, alone like an extra. Mill laughing when the waiter passed me by. A silent roast. edited like it was all part of a joke I never signed up for. Then Juna's voice played over it, shaky but clear. I never wanted you to see this, but I couldn't stay silent. I didn't breathe. She watched me closely, maybe looking for a reaction. I gave her none. I told them not to show it, she added. They said it was just family humor, but I knew it had hurt you. I closed the laptop. Why let it happen at all? I asked. She dropped her eyes. I was scared, she said. Lulin told me if I interfered, she'd make sure I never saw my kids again. She meant it. You know how she is. I kept my hands in my lap. Fear's not consent, I said, quiet but hard. She blinked at that. Outside, a car door slammed, loud, too close. I looked out but saw nothing but rain finally starting to fall. Let's walk, I said. We stepped out into the drizzle, each of us with an umbrella. Downtown noise faded under the sound of water tapping fabric and pavement. Half a block in, she reached into her coat and pulled out another paper. It's another draft, she said, of Mum's will, one she wrote alone. I found it on the same drive. I stopped walking. She handed it to me. The ink was real, dated, signed, but no witnesses. I read enough to know it said everything the family had denied. Land, savings, a letter of intention, my name, not theirs. I felt something twist deep in my chest, part rage, part relief, part, God, I don't know. I'm sorry, she said again. I didn't know what to do, but I want to stand with you now, if you'll let me. We stopped near the edge of a small park, the kind with a rusted fountain and wet benches. I looked at her, really looked. You know what trust is? I said. It's not something you feel, it's something you decide. She nodded, eyes wet. I'm not there yet, I said, but I'll decide, soon. We turned to head back toward our cars. Before she opened her door, she said, I texted someone to meet us tonight, someone who saw the whole thing. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Lorvette, the caterer. We need to talk about the slideshow. I closed my umbrella and looked at the drop glowing on my screen. Saturday evening settled quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful, just expectant, like something's waiting to hit. I sat at my dining table nursing cold coffee, reading Lorvette's message over and over. We need to talk about the slideshow, just that. No context, no apology, no tone I could read between the words. That message sat heavier than it should have. My hands stayed on the table, but my mind spun. I called Juna. Lorvette, she repeated. Yeah, she was one of the wedding coordinators. Why? She just messaged me out of nowhere. There was a pause. That woman looked sick at the wedding. She knew something. I leaned back, staring at the wall like it might blink first. Feels like bait. You think she's setting you up? Or it's another Llewellyn trick. Then I did what I knew I had to. I grabbed my phone, thumbed out a reply. Call me, I want everything on record. Less than a minute later. Give me 10, should have told you sooner. I cleared the table, pulled my laptop out, turned on the screen recorder, set it to capture everything. I adjusted the angle, straightened my shirt. I wasn't dressing up for her, I just needed to look like I hadn't lost, even if I felt like I had. 10 minutes passed. Lorvette's face appeared. Dull lighting behind her. She didn't look put together. She looked hunted. Thanks for taking this, she said, not meeting my eyes. You said it's about the slideshow. She nodded. It wasn't supposed to go that way. What way was it supposed to go? She swallowed. Llewellyn gave me a USB. She handed it to me the morning of the reception. Said it was for the bride's tribute. I stared. I never submitted any footage. I didn't even know there'd be a tribute. She said you had. She told me you wanted something light-hearted, playful. I didn't question it. I assumed. I didn't respond. I didn't trust my voice yet. She told me you signed off on it, she added quietly. I know now that wasn't true. I leaned forward. Show me what was on it. She shared her screen. I watched side-by-side footage. One labeled raw, one labeled final. The raw version made my chest tighten. My mother, God, my mother, smiling as she adjusted my veil, the way she looked at me like I was enough. Then a shot of us dancing in the living room when I was 10. I had forgotten about that video. She must have pulled it from my old hard drive. Gone. Every last second of it. Erased from the version shown that night. What stayed? Me stumbling on the hem of my dress. Me sitting alone by the bathroom hallway, fixing my shoes, caught in an awkward angle. Slow-mo shots of Llewellyn handing out drinks, hugging people, posing like she owned the place. The entire sequence made me look like a joke, or worse, like I didn't belong. Lauvette's voice shook. I thought it was supposed to be satire, like self-deprecating, but then when I saw your face during it, satire, I said flat. She nodded. I'm sorry. My voice came out low. This wasn't a mix-up, this was crafted. She knew exactly what she was doing. I saw it clearly now, that smug half-smile Llewellyn wore at the reception, like she was watching a game she'd already won. My phone lit up with a new message from Juna. Told you she wanted a clean slate, without you. Lauvette broke the silence. I can send you everything, the raw files, the work logs, email timestamps. I kept it all. I met her eyes through the screen. For the first time, she didn't look away. Send it, I said, and keep your phone close. I didn't know she'd twist it like that, she whispered. You don't know her like I do. The call ended. The apartment felt even quieter than before. I went straight to the drawer, pulled out the printed guest list. Names lined up like soldiers. I highlighted them one by one, not for revenge, just clarity. You sat me by the toilet, I whispered, but I've got the map now. I laid the USB on the table, opened a new folder on my computer, started dragging screenshots, logs, emails into it. I didn't move in a hurry. There was no rush, only purpose. Then the text came, from Llewellyn. You're being dramatic. Don't forget who paid for your dress. I stared at it. Let it sit there like a mosquito on the wall. No reply, just resolve. That was the last time she ever got to threaten me without consequence. I woke before dawn. The room was dim, curtains drawn, and the air heavy with the weight of silence. I sat at my desk and laid out what I had collected. The raw videos, the letter from Mum, Juna's recordings, the edited slideshow files. I labeled a folder Family Truth and placed each piece inside with timestamps and notes. On my laptop sat a draft legal complaint, defamation, emotional distress, property claim. My hands hovered over the keyboard. The phone rang, Grover. He reminded me of what I already knew. If I moved forward, Llewellyn would retaliate hard. I replied quietly, if they strike, I will strike back harder. I requested a meeting at Llewellyn's study. Under the guise of reconciliation, I told her I would bring a folder. When I arrived, I held that folder like a lifeline. She greeted me with a polite smile, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. I spoke first. I believe you owe everyone the truth. I placed the evidence on her desk. Her smile faltered. Through the door, guards shifted positions subtly. She launched her assault immediately. She accused me of betrayal. You've made my name the villain, she said. She produced a letter claiming I had borrowed money and not repaid it. Then she pivoted, accusing me of misappropriating funds from the family's charity. Staff at the doorway paused, drawn in by her voice. She made sure her voice carried. She intended for witnesses. I said nothing. I listened, watched her movements. When her tirade paused, I asked, who handled the letter after you printed it? What chain of custody did you use? I exposed it all. I showed handwriting mismatches, metadata proving the letter was created weeks after the date listed. I played Juna's recorded voicemail in which she admits being pressured by Llewellyn to help with forgery. I held up the letter from Mum, her handwriting pure and truthful. The room shifted. Llewellyn's face turned pale. Others edged back. I fixed my gaze. Do you want to break your own empire to protect your lies? I asked. The tension was thick, her guards looked uneasy. She couldn't respond without betraying herself. I gathered up my folder and turned to leave. I told her, "From now on, everything is on record." Outside, the sun felt sharp in my face. My heart pounded. This was no turning back. On the way home, I checked my phone. A message from Zane, unread, saying, "I'm watching this." Later at my door, I froze. Faces peeked from the hallway, cameras, whispers. A voice drifted from the dark. "Do you really think you can outlive your past?" Keys trembling in my hand, I stepped inside. By late afternoon, the sky was smeared with a yellow haze. I pulled up to Llewellyn's estate and killed the engine. The wrought iron gate creaked open without a word. I stepped out, folder in hand, heart tight in my chest. The driveway was long, flanked by hedges tall enough to swallow me whole. Every step echoed louder than it should have. Inside, the house felt colder than I remembered. A staff member, one I didn't recognize, ushered me through the hallway. Portraits of our so-called legacy watched from the walls. I never fit into those frames. I wasn't meant to. Llewellyn stood waiting in her office, her posture rigid, her mouth tight. She didn't fake warmth this time. I walked in and placed the folder on her mahogany desk. Without sitting, I opened it. I read aloud from the printed emails. "You wrote, 'Exclude Marlies from the slate. She doesn't photograph well in this context.' And here, adjust the slideshow. Remove the timeline references to Claribel's proposal." The air shifted. A maid stopped mid-dusting. The butler, usually invisible, stood frozen by the door. The room heard it all. Llewellyn's eyes narrowed. She reached for the papers, but I slid them out of her grasp. "When," I asked, "did you decide I was never part of your story?" She opened her mouth, then shut it. Her voice, when it came, was brittle. "You're misinterpreting. I was protecting the family. You take everything so personally." I leaned in, shielding me by destroying me. Her smile cracked. She tried again. "You always wanted attention. I was trying to shield you from embarrassment." "You were hiding your own shame," I said. The door opened. Juna stepped in, holding her own set of documents. Her eyes were red but clear. She didn't hesitate. "I got these last month," she said, handing me more emails. "You weren't wrong." Llewellyn stared at her. I forwarded the originals to Grover before you made me delete them." Juna cut her off. Silence thick. Llewellyn looked between us, panic spreading across her face like ink in water. Her confidence buckled. Juna came to stand beside me. Two voices that used to be whispers, now loud. I turned toward the portrait wall. Our family history, all those stiff smiles. One frame in the corner caught my eye. It was the digital version. I stepped closer. My face, once there, was now a grey smudge, like I'd never existed. I looked over my shoulder. "Take it down," I said. "I'm done pretending I belong in something I never chose." Staff exchanged glances. No one moved at first. Then one stepped forward, slowly removing the frame. Llewellyn raised a hand. "No, this isn't—" But her voice cracked mid-sentence. She knew it was over. Guests had gathered in the hallway. No one spoke. No one defended her. I turned to leave. My heart felt like it had finally caught up to my spine, straight, heavy, alive. As I stepped outside, the sky had turned copper. I was halfway down the driveway when I heard the gates clang shut behind me. A voice from the intercom buzzed in, low and cold. "Don't think this ends tonight." I froze, then looked over at Junie, who was already turning to face the gate. We were locked in. The house was quiet, too quiet. I'd turned off the TV an hour ago and sat with nothing but the click of my old ceiling fan and a stack of evidence Grover had left on the coffee table. It was late. Too late to still be doing this, but I couldn't stop. Not tonight. My eyes were bleary when the phone buzzed. I almost didn't check it. One new email, subject line, "Family Chia Slate Consolidated, Guest 2023. No greeting, no explanation. Just forwarded, accidentally from the looks of it, to my personal address." I opened it. and everything stopped. Internal memos. From Llewellyn's aides, paragraphs about media strategy, guest lists, financial narratives. At first it read like PR fluff, but then my name. Exclude Marlies from dinner invites. Alter slideshow timeline, delay her introduction. She's too smart, we need to provoke her to slip. And this one, cold and calculated. Make the card decline a public spectacle. My hands were still, but my heart wasn't. Every moment I'd dismissed as paranoia had been orchestrated, in every slight, every whisper behind closed doors. I wasn't overthinking, I'd been targeted. I forwarded the thread to Grover, then Juna, and I kept a copy for myself. No crying, no shaking. I felt something settle inside me, a kind of stillness I hadn't known in years. I logged on to the remote system Grover had set up for emergencies, just in case I ever needed to see what Llewellyn was doing from afar. Tonight felt like that case. Her office came into view. Clean, perfect, staff along the walls. Llewellyn paced like a wind-up toy coming undone. Phone in hand, head swiveling, they were already scrambling, even before I made my move. I activated the screen share. All 4 monitors in her office lit up at once. The emails filled the screens one after the next. My voice followed. You are under full exposure. A gasp. One staffer dropped a coffee mug. Llewellyn froze, then turned, slow, like she wasn't sure if what she was seeing was real. You thought I wouldn't see, I said. You thought I wouldn't fight. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. Then she snapped, You're doing this wrong and public. She pointed, Shut it down. One aide moved, then stopped. I've already sent it, I said, calm. The media has it. Community leaders have it. You're not just losing control. You already lost it. Get security, she hissed. Someone lunged for the keyboard. I cut the feed. The screen went black, and I sat there in my own living room, breathing hard, not from fear, not even from adrenaline, from the weight of truth. Finally, out in the open. By sunrise, screenshots were everywhere. One post on Facebook had more than 2,000 shares. I didn't comment, didn't respond to messages, I just watched. Some folks called me a troublemaker. Some said I was brave. My phone rang. Weslaw. She's losing it, he said. She's turning on everybody, blaming the interns, blaming me. She even snapped at Dad. Let her, I said, let her show them who she really is. That night, rain started coming down steady. I'd just made tea when headlights swept across the window. A black SUV pulled into the driveway. No warning, no text. I stood at the door, phone in one hand. A man stepped out, pulled off his hood, lifted his face to the porch light. I didn't recognize him until he cleared his raincoat and smiled. The next evening, I sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by folders, screenshots, voice memos, and a USB drive blinking steadily like a heartbeat. Grover and Juna were both on the video call, their faces lit by the blue glow of their screens. All pieces confirmed, Juna said, adjusting her glasses. Handwriting report, metadata logs, we'll draft. We're ready. Grover nodded. You sure you want to speak live? It's not too late to just submit it quietly. I looked down at the cracked teacup resting on a legal pad, the same cup I'd almost thrown away weeks ago. I ran my fingers over the fracture line. No more silence, I said quietly. Not tonight. I drafted a statement for the press, kept it clean, factual, legal. But I chose every word with care because words are weapons when used right. By the time I arrived at City Hall, the lobby was packed. Reporters clustered at the front, local stations setting up.